Seems like we got the biggest video game leak of the year, kind of similar to that Walmart leak you might remember just before E3 2018, where they already said, hey, a new Assassin's Creed is coming. That turned out to be Odyssey. And sure, that leak also had Splinter Cell, which never came true sadly, but there were a ton of other things noted there as well that indeed were announced. And sure, not everything in the new NVIDIA leak is likely correct or still in development, but we do have a lot of reasons to believe that there are actually a ton of interesting unannounced games here that will likely become a reality at some point, including a new Middle-earth game, more PC releases for Sony titles, brand new Xbox exclusives, and way more. Of course, if you enjoy these big Sunday videos, then don't leave a like to show your support, and let's go. Igor July was able to unlock an NVIDIA GeForce Now database with over 18,000 games that seem to be used for internal testing. He made a video too, which you see right here, but also posted the full list of games he found. And don't worry, I will highlight some of the more interesting ones in a moment. But yeah, it's pretty huge, right? NVIDIA already said that the list is real, but that the games noted here are speculative. Okay, but why call Injustice 3 God's Will Fall? Seems quite specific. Or why have codenames like Project Holland or Project Woodstock, which are games from Microsoft Game Studios? Like, I don't think you can come up with those things, right? And well, what is interesting is that Jess Gordon from Windows Central was already able to confirm that these projects linked to Microsoft are indeed real. Gear 6 was, by the way, also found in the database. And in the article, he notes that Project Holland received an unveiling in 2020 as the Fable reboot, headed by a new team within Forza developer Playground Games. And that Woodstock relates to the Forza franchise. We also find a mention of Project Typhoon in the list, which refers to that new Avalanche game, Contraband, that was announced at the Microsoft E3 show with that brief teaser trailer. But we also found unannounced projects that are hinted at on this list that we just never heard of before. One of them is Indus codename. And well, Jess on Windows Central now confirmed that he heard about Indus back in spring 2021. Although he was only able to confirm that the project is definitely going ahead, thanks to this GeForce leak. He then continues that it seems to be a Civilization type title made for cloud gaming because of how well those turn-based games work with potential problems while streaming. And we also see Untitled in Exile game, so that's from the developers who recently did Wasteland 3. They seem to be working on Project Cobalt, a new first-person shooter RPG in a steampunk style. And the ArtStation image that we see here is from a concept artist at this development studio, and this might actually give us an idea of what we can expect. And they're targeting a release of 2023, according to the rumors. But yeah, the point is that these projects are indeed in development with codename and all, so then you would think that other things that appear on this list are likely real as well, right? I mean, before this leak, we already had pretty substantial rumors that a GTA Remastered trilogy is coming, and in this leak, we indeed see GTA 3 Remastered, San Andreas Remastered, and Vice City Remastered. Resident Evil 4 Remake also shows up on the list, and yes, Video Game Chronicle could also here confirm that it's in the works. And interesting, by the way, is that weird Sony commercial we saw at the start of the showcase seemed to be hinting at RE4 as well, thanks to the symbol randomly being there in the trailer. I mean, it's only a matter of time before we see it, of course, but it's still interesting. And the NVIDIA list of Capcom games is nothing too crazy, like we're not seeing Dino Crisis that a lot of people seem to want, or Dead Rising 5 that we know is not coming. Now instead we see Dragon's Dogma 2, which we actually know is in the works thanks to that big Capcom leak that happened a while back. Going back to Jess from Windows Central for a moment, because he also understands that NVIDIA Now and other cloud streaming services have played a prominent role in game development throughout the pandemic, providing remote access in work-from-home environments. So this also could explain why all those code names for games that are likely still far away are on this NVIDIA list. But yeah, we of course have to keep in mind that this is a leak, so we have to take everything with a grain of salt. 343 already noted that they have no plans to bring Halo 5 to PC right now, despite it being on this list. But yeah, that game of course already released. I'm more interested in the unannounced games that I don't think NVIDIA could have come up with out of nowhere. And the one that I want to start with that I personally found the most interesting is Fight for Middle-earth. Yes, it's from Warner Bros. And sure, this could be anything. Maybe it's a sequel to Battle for Middle-earth, the RTS game that was actually kinda cool back in the day. Personally though, I think it's more likely that this is the next game from the creators of Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, Monolith Productions, and that we maybe see more of Middle-earth instead of only Mordor. Shadow of War came out in 2017, and they by the way just got a new studio head who worked at Sony Santa Monica, including on God of War 2018. Like, things are happening there as they're likely getting closer to finishing their next project. I mean, Shadow of War was also announced and then launched a few months later, so maybe we see that in 2022. I mean, would be perfect time because Amazon also has a Lord of the Rings show coming. Fight for Middle-earth could be anything, but I'm holding my fingers crossed, and I think it's pretty likely that it's a sequel to Shadow of War. Over on Reddit, we got the most interesting titles from this leak highlighted. Like, next to Final Fantasy VII Remake, that is likely coming to PC at some point too, we also see Final Fantasy IX Remake and Kingdom Hearts 4. I mean, I can see them do another Kingdom Hearts, although it will likely be a long time. And sure, remake the other Final Fantasy games too. Maybe finish 7 first. No, but again, it's interesting that they only pick 9, right? If it was a speculative list, why not put the other Final Fantasy remake games here too? So yeah, we might see that in the future. For Take-Two, next to the remasters of GTA, we see Bioshock RTX remastered. So with ray tracing, okay. And a Bioshock 2022. I mean, we already know that the new Bioshock game is coming in December 2019. 2K announced the new Cloud Chamber studio and started a massive hiring spree for the project. But yeah, again, that was not even 2 years ago. So I don't think the game is coming in 2022. Maybe it's announced next year. But it's still, of course, interesting that it's on the list. For EA, the interesting things are the untitled Respawn game and Titanfall 3. I mean, sure, we know Respawn is doing multiple things next to Apex. Maybe the untitled game is Jedi Fallen Order 2, which we, of course, know is coming. Like, EA even recently said that they will continue to invest in the franchise. But yeah, Titanfall 3, I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be a single-player only title. Like, we do know that Respawn is also working on a brand new single-player adventure. Could be anything, but it could also be just a sequel to the Titanfall 2 single-player, which was, of course, really good. Other highlights include Hangar 13 unannounced, which we, of course, know is coming. That's the next game from the Mafia 3 creators, a new IP. We see Hitman Pro. IO Interactive is working on James Bond and potentially a Dragon IP, like a fantasy game for Microsoft. So are they also going to do more Hitman stuff? I don't know, but yeah, it's still interesting. Titan Quest 2, Viking by Criterion. Maybe the codename for the next Need for Speed game, because they are back in charge of the Need for Speed franchise. We see Metro next. And we actually know that 4A Games already started working on the next Metro game. Again, I think things on this list are not too crazy. And we also have Edge of Tomorrow game, also something I don't think NVIDIA can come up with out of nowhere. I would be down for that, especially after playing a lot of Deathloop. I want to see more time loop games, so sure. Also interesting is that Outcast 2 was on this list, and then a few days later, THQ did their presentation. What did they announce? Outcast 2. Like, I really think that most titles on this list are indeed real. We also see, again, some Sony games. Uncharted Legacy of the Thieves Edition was, of course, already announced. That's coming to PS5 and PC. Forbidden West is here too. Like, I'm sure it will come to PC at some point, but it will likely be a few years after the PlayStation release. More interesting is the God of War, like, listing here. I think they're gonna do a Horizon Zero Dawn tactic here, like let people play the 2018 game on PC, let them get invested. If you want to play the sequel, yeah, they gotta buy a PlayStation. I think that's likely going to happen. We see Returnal here. At one point, I think everyone on PS5 who was interested in the game bought it. Sony now owns Housemarque, so why not put that game on PC? I think it actually fits the PC space pretty well. Demon's Souls is here too. Maybe you remember this, but when Demon's Souls was, I think, revealed, or when we saw like the first gameplay trailer, they already had the end card saying that it would be available on PC too. They then later changed it. So yeah, that was always planned. I think more interesting, and I think that also once again shows you that this list is likely legit, at least most of it. Oh yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is, by the way, also on here. I think that's also a matter of time. But yeah, there's no mention of Bloodborne. There's no mention of Spider-Man, and also no mention of Last of Us. Like, if NVIDIA was like, hey, let's put all the Sony titles in the database, why not put those games in there too? I really think that Sony wants to save some, like, massive hits for the PlayStation audience, which include Last of Us. It's getting, of course, their HBO show, so more people will be looking at that franchise. Spider-Man is, of course, huge. And yeah, Bloodborne is kind of weird. Like, just release it. What are you waiting for? I, by the way, put a link to this NVIDIA list in the video description, so you can check it out if you want. So let me know what you think, of course, in the comments down below. And you can also leave a question in the comments down below that I then might answer in the next Sunday video. And last week I got a question from Super Donuts saying, how do you think PlayStation will respond in terms of Game Pass? Also talking about how Jim Ryan said that they won't do something like it, and that it seems that their games are selling fine for $70. What do you think PlayStation will do? And sure, right now they're fine, like paying full price for a game, that's the expectation, and sure, those games are of quality, so it makes sense. But at one point, I think it will change if Microsoft gets more dangerous, which will happen over the coming years. I've been playing a lot of Deathloop this week, and one of the things that was like in my head most of the time while playing was what I said last week during the Sunday show as well. Like, at some point, Microsoft games will get close to the quality from Sony games. Like, the next game from this Deathloop team, if it's getting as much praise as Deathloop is getting right now, like some tens even, and I love Deathloop, like, I want to play this next game from that studio. Like, that is just one game that Microsoft will release on Game Pass day one in the next few years. That's gonna be huge, and a lot of people on PlayStation right now are playing Deathloop. They're like, oh my god, I wanna play that next game. Like, that's gonna be pretty dangerous for Sony, and next to that, Microsoft has way more studios putting out those games. So I really think at some point PlayStation does have to do something. What they will do is really, yeah, hard to predict. Maybe they're gonna do a service where you can, like, play the new PlayStation games they release for like a limited time, and then after that you can choose to buy it, as what we see with Game Pass is right now as well. You can just download the games and then see if they are for you. Obviously you then don't have to buy them, but yeah, maybe that's like a way for PlayStation to kind of counter it. Maybe they do a smaller service where games only stay for 14 days. If you want to play them after those 2 weeks, you gotta pay. Like, there are many things they can do, but I do think that at one point, if Microsoft has Elder Scrolls, Fable, a new Halo, Gears, of course the new Initiative game, like, if they all release close to each other for this like $15 fee versus Sony, who's asking 80 euros per game, Sony has to do something. So it will be very interesting to see what happens, but right now it's kind of hard to predict, I think. But playing Deathloop already kind of shows you that this now in that Microsoft Studio, they are going to make an Xbox exclusive game after Deathloop that's gonna be Game Pass day one. So yeah, will be interesting. I will have a new Sunday video next week, so subscribe for that. A like on the video would of course really help me out. And check out the previous video on my 5 key takeaways from that Sony press conference, which you can watch by clicking on the screen. For now, I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.